Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Can you kind of give us a sense of what led you to make this move into getting back into golf footwear and making the move with Payntr?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. The move into Payntr was kind of a culmination of things. The market, I think, had been calling out for this for a couple of years. We look at the market as being either aesthetically driven or fashion driven or performance driven. And we felt like my two partners, David Payntr and Mike Clancy, our creative director, felt like the pendulum had swung so far to fashion. And, with all the talk around, the golf swing, starting with the ground up and, instruction, just talking about using the ground as leverage and ground reaction forces. And if you think about it, it's your feet are the only thing in connection with the ground. So, we really felt like we could bring a performance advantage in golf footwear because we understand what's going on biomechanically. We understand what can enhance and what can inhibit, a golfer's performance with regard to their golf footwear. And we felt like there was a void or a need in the marketplace. So that's what we focused on, is performance first. Now it's you have to have that balance too, because golfers obviously want to be fashionable and golfers played in foursomes and so forth. So you have to have that balance of the product needs to be contemporary and needs to look good. But we felt like our niche or our opportunity was, let's start with the performance of the golfer and try to improve that through better golf footwear. So
How do you think we got so far the other way, aesthetically related?
That's a really good question too. I think there's been so much movement from sportswear brands and fashion brands into golf and apparel, and footwear just seemed to be an extension of that apparel. The outfits wanting to go together. And again, I don't want to diminish that. That's important too. But taking something that was developed for another purpose, whether it was a running shoe that's tweaked to make golf appropriate or to make applicable or somewhat appropriate for golf, or a fashion or lifestyle shoe that was made appropriate for golf. I think there's the golfer. I think is going to desire more, is going to need more, and they may not even know it, that you can get a performance advantage from your golf footwear. Traction during the golf swing is multi-dimensional. It's both vertical, you're pushing into the ground, you want energy and responsiveness. Mm-hmm. It's horizontal with weight shift. And it's rotational. Your feet are moving while you're playing. So you want to be able to have traction that supports, that resists, and that gives you that ability to harness vertical ground forces. So it's the really good question. It's multifaceted. But it's also important that we deliver both on the fashion side, but our brand, Payntr Golf, starts with performance first. So
I feel like the golfer has been inundated with messaging over the last, throw it back as many years as you want, but your equipment will make you better. You'll hit it farther, you'll hit it straighter. It's more forgiving than ever. Yeah. And then we come to the point where we're at with footwear, and there's kind of this performance message, and people put their hands up and go, no way. There's no way that's possible. How can that happen? How can there be someone who's convinced that their driver will help them hit it a club farther, but at the same time you tell them their shoe could help them, and they go, I'm not buying that.
Yeah, no, that's a good question too. That's coming from a person that now is supposed to hit my driver 120 yards further than I did 10 years ago,
Right.
because I've been promised a 10-yard advantage for the last 10 years. Um, no, I think the proof is in the pudding. I think, one of the things that we've done when we've worked with our biomechanists is we study foot in contact with shoe, shoe in contact with ground, and we're able to put golfers on a force platform and measure both clubhead speed and ball speed. And we have them come in in their existing product and then switch into our product, and you see that. Now you'd need some independent source to do that for you so that you could promote that as an organization. But I think the proof is in when we get it on golfers, when we get our product on golfers, they see that performance advantage, not only in comfort, but they see it in, performance off the tee, power to the ball. So.
And what's the consumer's reaction? Is it surprise? What is the revelation like for them?
Yeah, that's a good question as well. I think it's once they get past that, this shoe is really comfortable. Then hey, you're giving me what you said you were going to give me. We've got a propulsion plate in our midsole that allows the golfer to push and get responsiveness, get that response that they're looking for, or that their teacher is to talk to them about, whether it's a tour pro or, their local pro that, speaks to them about harnessing ground reaction forces, using the ground as leverage. Well, we allow them to do that. And it's pretty intuitive when you're able to look at the product and, you see the nub details, you see we have a dual durometer midsole that is firmer where you need it to be firmer, where that weight shift goes lateral outside heel, but also the cavity that we have in the outsole that's supported by that graphite propulsion plate that opens and closes, and that mechanical closure gives you that responsiveness, gives the golfer that performance advantage that we're promising. You can feel it, you can push, and you can get it back in energy return, which allows you to bring more power to the ball.
Are there consumers who, when you kind of explain the science, the biometrics behind all of this, go, well, I was taught golf a certain way and I didn't use the ground when I was growing up, so is this going to be beneficial to me still swinging the way I was taught 20, 30 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the golfers look at the in order of priority, they look at comfort, traction, and waterproofing. Comfort, because if you think about this, Ryan, golfers are in their shoes longer than any other athlete in any other athletic activity. If you run, you might run for an hour if you're a really good runner. If you play basketball, you might be in your shoes for an hour, right? Tops. But golf footwear, you could put your shoes on at home, drive to the golf course, hit balls before you play, 4-hour round, hit balls afterwards, or go to the 19th hole. So you're in your shoes for, 5, 6, 7 hours. Tour players are in their shoes for 10 or 12 hours a day. So, its comfort is key. And, it's also multi-dimensional. That's the fit of the product, the weight, the flexibility, the environment inside the shoe, all of those underfoot cushioning, all of those things contribute to comfort. And you're walking the course. So you have, varying, side hill, downhill, you're walking up the hill. So comfort is key. So our shoe delivers on that, and we look at comfort holistically. Everything that we do, the top line cushioning, the underfoot cushioning, all of that contributes to comfort. The added benefit and what sets us apart is that our footwear looks at traction in 3 dimension, that vertical, horizontal, and rotational resistance that we talk about. So that's the added benefit from the arm swinger, from the person that's not using the ground to their advantage. So
what I guess what kind of influences do you draw from? We just talked about this with other sports where you're in other sports footwear for less of a period of time, but still a lot of similar movements, a lot of same power movements you might generate from football or basketball or running, but maybe applied in a slightly different way for golf. And then what is so wholly separate that is unique to golf that's part of these shoes?
Yeah, that's the, you know, a lot of the vertical sports we look at. So running, we look at, even though it's a linear sport, you're looking at the ground for responsiveness. We use the analogy of, if you're running in sand, it's the exact opposite of what you would need in golf footwear. So you're running in sand, and the sand is moving out from underneath you, because there isn't that underfoot responsiveness, that, you know, the energy that you would get just from the ground, or just from, you know, pushing and having that force come back to you in energy. So it's like training somebody that's doing squats and pushing into the ground. Basketball, just vertical, you know, vertical hops or vertical leap off the ground. In golf, it's funny in that, you know, it hasn't been until recently that the biomechanics of the golf swing, and, you know, how many times have you heard, on whether it's a television broadcast or if you're listening to instruction, using or harnessing vertical ground forces? You know, who would have ever thought in golf we would be talking about harnessing vertical ground forces? But if you look at the longest, you know, players on the PGA Tour, the longest hitters on tour, they're not necessarily big in stature. You know, you got smaller guys that hit it a long way, or thinner guys that hit it a long way, just because they really, truly efficiently use the ground as leverage. They push and they get it back in energy return. So that's what we're allowing you to do with our golf footwear. So,
And then from a business perspective, how are you able to connect with golfers? How have you seen the results so far in terms of connecting with golfers as a brand that's walking into a space where there are some pretty established names, but there are also some similar kind of challenger brands that are in this performance space too?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what we've been able to do, I think, to be successful in the first season, and we didn't start shipping product until March of this year. And our plan for the first season was just to be direct to consumer. So payntrgolf.com was the only thing that we had planned to do as far as our strategic outlook in the first year. But that connection that we had, and the success that we had both in media and in word of mouth, we've had accounts call us, hey, how do we start selling your product? Can you open us up as an account? That's, in 30 years in this business, it's never happened to me. So it's a good thing. We knew it was a good thing. So we figured out how to do it. I think the focus on that core golfer, that golfer that plays 8 or more times a year, that golfer that golf is a lifestyle, that's the golfer that's always looking for a performance advantage. You know, the latest driver, yep, the latest ball, right? You know, that if we had our druthers, if footwear could be considered in the equipment category, in the hard goods category, as opposed to cut and sew soft goods, you know, Payntr Golf would have an advantage in that, because we think about it from that perspective. We design and develop product, you know, based on, hey, we're equipment and we want to deliver a performance advantage. So I think that message, and, you know, I think that's how we've been able to make that connection to that core golfer, and that's the success we've had to date. So
I guess my last question is, what's next? What's in the works for season 2? What are your goals as a business to expand your outreach, expand your reach to the customer? I mean, what's kind of in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, so we've definitely accelerated our strategic plan. So we are now in the US. We've hired a group of territory sales managers that will be selling to green grass distribution kind of in the fall timeframe. We've partnered with Golf's on Ledbetter. We have the global partnership with the Ledbetter Academies. All of their 150 instructors or coaches wear our product day in and day out. We look to expand on either the Champions Tour or the PGA Tour with some players. What product-wise, we want to expand our offering in spikeless, but then when we get to spring of 23, we want to bring a spiked product to market as well. And then in the same time frame, in that spring 23 time frame, we want to look to bring women's and juniors into the mix as well. So, and then, we're also in the process of, and goodness, our strategic plan never had this in mind when we started. We're looking right now in expanding outside the US. We're already in the UK with David Payntr, our partner, as our distributor there. And we're looking to expand into Korea, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, and India. So it's all, like drinking from a fire hose right now, but it's all good. It's all good. So yeah,
It's a good problem to have.
it is a great problem to have. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Mike, thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us. Really appreciate it. Getting into Payntr Golf a little bit better. Hopefully we can do this again in the future.
You got it. Thank you very much. You have a good weekend.
Thanks.